All right, we are live and connected. Well, welcome everyone. It is that time once again for our quarterly Raleigh-Durham Tableau user group. We are so excited to welcome everyone to this end of 2020 Raleigh-Durham Tableau user group. Yes, folks, we have made it. We are almost at the finish line. We have Ken is clapping. We are all super excited, and I found a few different slides for this today, but this one I think was probably the most opportune because it not only said 2020 2021, but it had an arrow going forward. And so as a community, as our user group, I mean, I feel like I've been a broken record in saying this since March, since we went virtual and had to miss our first quarter tug. But we're always looking forward. And so no matter if it's 2020 and we're in this situation, if we've got to do this another quarter, another 2 quarters, however long we've got to do it, I personally have been extremely thankful for the continued support, the engagement, and just the overall amazingness of this community. So I consider myself just blessed and thankful to be part of this Raleigh-Durham Tableau user group, this data fam. You all make what I do, what we do, absolutely amazing. So thank you, thank you, thank you. If you're watching this live, thank you. If you're watching this on the recording, thank you. It doesn't matter where you hear it. I just want you to know we are thankful for you because again, this community is not about us. It's not about the 9 of us that are on the panel tonight. It is about all of you. We are a community. We are a data fam, and so I'm extremely lucky and thankful to be part of it. So kind of go over, some boilerplate stuff here. Our agenda tonight, we will, again, this is our welcome. So welcome again to the fourth quarter 2020 Raleigh-Durham Tableau user group. Jesse Bigman, one of our fabulous Raleigh-Durham Tableau user group leadership team, will be giving us an update on our mentor program, as well as going through the Have a Job, Need a Job session. And he'll give you some details on how we're going to do that, because again, as you know, we are virtual, so it's a little bit different, and we are recording it. So we'll tell you how we can share jobs, share resumes, and things like that in this virtual environment. And then after all that is done, we're going to go into our RDU Tug first ever Viz contest. So we had quite a few submissions, some just amazing dashboards and designs and storytelling. The data that was put together, I mean, it blew my mind. So I am very thankful that we had this community, the folks that submitted. No matter what you submitted, we are very grateful. So we look forward to going over these visualizations and then to analyze them and provide some feedback for our contestants. But what is more, we want to continue to support them as well as support you. And so hopefully next year when we do another one of these, you'll submit your biz. So and then last but not least, because I know he loves baseball, to clean up and just hit that grand slam for us, Ryan Sleeper, the one and only, will be with us to talk about toggles. I had some pretty fun with the alliteration on your title here, but I'm gonna spare the people that my alliteration titles there. But Ryan will be with us. He'll talk all about some toggles in Tableau, and he'll also, for those of you that don't know, Ryan was the 2013 Iron Viz champion, and so he'll be giving some feedback to our contestants, as well as doing some Q&A on what it takes to be an Iron Viz contestant and what it takes to be a winner, right, Ryan? You're going to share with us the secret sauce there. So we're excited to hear from you. We're so thankful that you could join us. It's been a long time in the making. So anyway, without further ado, I do want to give another shout out, another thank you to this amazing team that we have, our RDU Tug leadership team. Without them, events like this just wouldn't happen. My brain is totally fried after this year. And so the ideas for a Viz contest, for mentorship programs, for any amount of content that we have is not coming from me. is coming from this amazing team. And so they are the support, they are the network, they are what drives this community. So so all of you kind of give them a virtual round of applause. Thank you so much to Paul, to Greg, to Ken, to Jesse, and to our newest member, Marit. So you'll hear from a few of them later, and we will. We're missing Greg tonight, but shout out, Greg, when you watch this. You are missed, and we hope you have a wonderful holiday and a happy New Year, Greg. All right. So this is obviously one of my favorite visits. I do like the opportunity to get to do this every quarter. I haven't done it in a few quarters because we've been virtual, but I didn't want to share, because we are virtual, we did have a few folks. There were a few from a few different areas, so I didn't include them because this is the Raleigh-Durham Tableau user group. But this is using the new density mark in Tableau 2020. So if you haven't played around with the density mark, put it on some of your map visits. These are super, super fun. All of this was in Tableau. I didn't use a single PowerPoint thing. Some overlapping maps and everything. Doing the word clouds. Again, this really just shows you, if you're looking for a company to be a part of, look at this list. If you're looking for, a job title or wondering, is what I do, is that part of our Tableau community? This absolutely. We have everything from VPs to obviously our business analysts to business intelligence specialist, director of BI, associate, senior IT analyst, epidemiologist. So if you're an epidemiologist and think you can't do Tableau, well, guess what? You're wrong. Because we have an epidemiologist with us. If you are that epidemiologist and you are signed in, please put something in the chat. We'd love to hear from you and hear about what you do in a future Raleigh-Durham Tableau user group. So anyway, that's analyzing the data on the fly because I didn't see that earlier when I was making this viz. So all right, that's who we are. This is your Raleigh-Durham Tableau user group. And all right. So without further ado, Jesse, I'll let you take it away and give us an update on the mentoring program, please.
Hey, everyone. This is Jesse Bickman. We announced a mentorship program at our last RDU-TUG event in Q3, where we plan to get mentors matched up with mentees so that we have some networking happening in our COVID lives and some community structure that's a little more organic. And it started off a little rough. We had a lot of people sign up to be mentees, but we only had 2 people sign up to be mentors. But now we have a full match for all of our mentees to mentors, 14, which is really exciting. That's way more than I thought would be interested in both sides. And if anyone's still interested, reach out to us. Send an email to rdutug@gmail.com. If you're interested in being a mentor or being a mentee, we have a process for that. But the idea behind this mentorship program is, folks want to get some perspective from where they're at with their careers or where they want to be later on, or just find out what it's like at another company, just to be connected. So this is a really great opportunity to have that. And for folks who, want to be mentored, you can get that connection with somebody who's, been where you want to be, who is where you want to be, or is closer to where you want to be than you are, or something like that. And if you're a mentor, you can help someone grow. And as a mentor, you can grow too, just getting the perspective from someone who's in a different place from you. And it's really a great thing for all parties involved, mentoring and being mentored. So we're really excited for folks to connect with each other and see where this goes. We want to make this an ongoing thing. So if you're interested, reach out.
And yeah, Jesse, I'm going to put up the link to the form for being a mentor or a mentee. That's going to go on our community page, which we'll talk about in just a minute. So next is our Have a Job, Need a Job session, which is also, Jesse, How are we going to do this?
Thank you. So we've been doing this thing called Have a Job, Need a Job. It's a little different because it's virtual. So the way we want to do it is, if you are hiring, put your name of your company in the chat, and also put it on put the listing for the job on the Tableau community forum, which we'll drop a link into the chat for that. If you're hiring, put that in the chat and we'll read it out loud so that folks can know like who is hiring. And then if you're looking for a job, put your email address in the chat, or also feel free to use the community page. But let's use this as a time to have that conversation right now. Is anybody hiring?
Yeah, anybody hiring, put it in the chat.
Put it in the chat.
Yeah, I was going to say we did have somebody post in one of our. I did suggest that he posted in our community page. We posted in our LinkedIn in one of our old LinkedIn groups. Lumeris. All right, Phil. Nice.
Looks like we got Phil Talcott saying Lumeris is hiring for mid-level and senior analytics consultants, and remote work is okay. That's great.
So
another person's asking that the hiring have to be restricted to the Raleigh-Durham area. Probably not necessarily, but just know that your audience is primarily those folks. So if it's not in the local area, just make people aware of what that means for them if they take the job, if it's remote friendly, that kind of thing.
James, I see your hand. If you'll just post in the chat, we'll and if you have especially if you have a link to the job or anything like that. Yeah, don't forget to change the chat to the panelists and attendees, all panelists and all attendees. So, but we'll let everybody know. And like I said, that hopefully this individual will post to the LinkedIn on our community page. But once again, if you have a job, please post it onto our community at tableau.com/group/Raleigh. You should be able to get there from there. Mine, there's a few kind of weird things there. Jesse, you want to ask about?
And if you're interested, and if you're looking for a job, go ahead and put your contact information in the chat. It won't be part of the recording, so I won't read it out loud, but just so that folks who are hiring can get in contact with you.
All right.
It looks like we got another person
Great.
saying that Marit Therapeutic is hiring a CRM analyst in Raleigh, and that the work is going to be remote initially, but eventually will be in the office. So that's great.
And MERS is pretty close to Genworth, so you can come get Chick-fil-A with me if you go to work there.
Okay. Well,
all right.
I think that concludes our Have a Job, Need a Job. But if you feel like you wanted to go a little farther with this, we've got the community page, and you can put those links in there, share your contact information. Someone can post the community forum link here in a minute. Here comes Chris with the save.
Yep, it's done. All right. Well, without further ado, yeah. So we still got some chat. Feel free to continue the chat. If you missed it, you want to continue talking about your job, or if you need you need a job, yeah, use the chat. We're here right now, just like you would do in a typical Tableau user group, network with each other. So anyway, all right. So now is the meat, the bulk of the evening, and Marit, I'm going to let you take it away and talk about our. I put Q4. I guess you said Q3 2020, but our first ever Tableau Viz contest.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. So we kicked this off in Q3. We gave the details of the Viz contest, and I'm just going to recap the details. They're also on my Tableau public site. So I created a Tableau dashboard with the details on how to run a Viz contest, which I talked about at Q3. And then I also put in the RDU Tug Viz contest details for this Viz contest. So feel free to create a dashboard, even though the Viz contest is over. Feel free to still take the data and create your own dashboard. Just see what you can create. You could take some ideas maybe from the 3 demos that we're going to have today, and then maybe enhance it, add some more features, kind of whatever you want to do, just for your own sake to create some dashboards. So the Viz theme was airports, airlines, and routes. So we provided a data source from data.world, and we encouraged people to also bring in any other data sources that they wanted to use. The main thing was just that one data source was used, and then anything else that was related you could bring in as you wanted. And then what we did was we had 8 different submissions, and we gave these 8 submissions. The judging criteria for these 8 submissions was analysis, design, storytelling, and uniqueness. So based on this, we had 3 top winners. So what we're going to do next is we're going to have the top 3 winners. They're going to present their dashboards, and you can see Chris's screen. You can see the submissions. So it's like a snapshot of each of the dashboards. So we're going to have the top 3 winners present their dashboards, and just so nobody knows who's first and second and third, we're going to have them present in alphabetical order based on their last name.
Are you ready to see them? You ready to see the top 3? You want to announce it, Marit?
Should I?
All right. Our top 3.
Okay. Wait, no, we'll do this later, right? Or should we do it right now?
The top 3. We can do the top 3.
Just in alphabetical.
Oh, that's what you mean. Okay, yeah. So the top 3 are Motez Mahmood, Phil Talcott, and Casey Scully. So what we're going to do is we're going to have... So we're going to start with Motez presenting his dashboard, and then after that, we're going to give some feedback, and then Ryan Sleeper is also going to give some feedback on this submission.
Thanks so much, Marit. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. So thanks everyone for having us today. Here is the dashboard I created. As you may notice, I decided to go with a story where the first slide is utilizing all the routes available in the database just to show us in a high level how the world is connected via airline. And that hopefully will inspire us to travel, knowing that we can go from any city to anywhere. So that's the goal for the first slide. The second slide in the story should take us a little zoom in the data, where there is 2 main parameters driving the second slide. The first one is a slider, will allow us to select the type of the prompt we're going to use to filter the data, either by city, airline, or airport. On the left side, the value prompt, and as you may see, I pre-select Frankfurt City, and you will be able to see all the routes on a map that goes from Frankfurt to any other city. And on the map, I have 2 color legend. I utilized the city of the airline being used. I'm sorry, the country, the original country for each airline to highlight the airline operated from the city selected, either it's domestic or foreign airline. That would give us, in a high level, the volume and the different airlines used from the selected city. And I may select other cities so you can see how the colors give us insights. I'm going to select Barcelona. When you look at Barcelona city, majority of the airlines operating are foreign airlines and has less routes compared to Germany. Going to the left side of the dashboard, I use a little bit of detailed calculations and to get some more insights of the data. So for the selected city or airport or airline, you will get the number of routes originated from this city, and also the longest route. And I used a calculation in Tableau to calculate the distance using the latitude and longitude for each route. And then got the longest route and associated information where what is the departure city and arrival, and which airport performed the longest route, and which airplane being used in the longest route. Also, I thought might be interesting for any selected criteria, what are the most airplanes being used? And last one thing, I will try the slider. So let's say I want to log by airport. So the dashboard will reset, and then I will select Cairo International Airport. And here you will get similar information in nature, but the data is being grouped by airport rather than a city, and also will generate the longest route information as well as most airplanes used. For the data prep, I use Tableau Public to do basic cleanup, and the data source originally was 4 different files. I utilized Tableau relationship to bring all files together. Thank you so much.
Perfect, thank you. So with that, we'll get some feedback from the leadership team. So Jesse or Chris, if you have any comments, and then we'll get to Ryan after that.
Hey, this is Jesse. I'll go. Montez, I really liked your visualization. The colors were just reminded me of being in an airport, which I haven't been in an airport in a while, and flying at night. And it kind of seemed like something that if it was on a huge screen, I could actually interact with it and, touch the screen and like see it like almost like a museum display. So it was really cool viz for that. Just kind of feeling it gave me there. I thought the layout was really nice and all the data really popped where you change the colors for the data. The only thing I would change is when you're in the airport parameter on the dropdown, some of the text had little things in there. So maybe the data could have been cleaned up a little bit for that, but that's really minor, and it's definitely not the focal point. I thought this is a great visualization. I liked it a lot.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so I'll go. Yeah, I think so. One of the let me couch all of this. So as we're just getting started, these top 3 visualizations that we just presented, and they're going to be presented. You all 3 were just outstanding, and so it was extremely close between 1, 2, and 3. Just so I want to kind of make that. So the things that we're going to mention, and I know Ryan is going to mention as well, are they can seem a little nitpicky, but really at this point in the game, we really have to kind of be nitpicky because these were 3 incredible visualizations. So and we're always, again, as Jesse said, just some ways that you can if you were to do this again, if you were to, get an opportunity. So I will say off the bat, super engaging. I mean, the first one that I wanted to click on right away, just as that first visualization, just showing the connectedness, the story there alone made you want to go in and do more. And so, so using story points, I think, overall, you are using just a ton of Tableau features and functionality. So, so that in and of itself is just amazing. What Jesse had mentioned, some of the data that had come in a little bit dirty. And so one of the opportunities as I was clicking through, I noticed some of the data on the left-hand side. I'm not sure if you've updated it since then, but when I judged it on the first round, some of the data was incomplete, or it was just showing up. The formatting was a little off. So that was just one of those things. I think just a little bit of polish could have just taken this one and sorted it. And I really enjoyed the story of walking through. I don't know if you got that from Iron Viz a few years ago, but just absolutely great. Just kind of walking through. You've got your story 1, 2, 3, and so using those functionalities, parameters, using story points to tell a story, just great use of Tableau in general. So congratulations, this is fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, Ryan, if you have any feedback, you can give that to him now.
All right, yeah, hey, Motaz, congratulations. I really like the visualization as well. First comments are just, my first impression is it's visually stunning. Just lost the visualization, I can't see it, but that's okay, I remember it quite a bit. Visually stunning, Motaz. It's one of those you might want to print out, make a high-res poster. So I love that first impression. Makes you kind of want to stop and look at it and dig in deeper. Once you are digging in, I was really impressed by some of the calculations that you had to do behind the scenes that probably won't be as appreciated from just a kind of novice viewer, but that's pretty neat that you were able to achieve that and show the longest routes. I was impressed with those calculations. And on a personal note, I kind of like the bar charts that were showing me how the aircraft that was going out of each hub. I fly a lot too, and I kind of dork out about that. And that's just something I've never really had visibility into. So I like that you provided that. My only constructive feedback I'd say is I'm not a big fan of story points. I think you might have been better served just making it more of a long form dashboard or combining it somehow into one single view that you kind of drill into. That's nothing personal. That comes from kind of a cynical view that I feel like if you can't communicate the main story in about 5-10 seconds and get somebody to stop and look at it, they're not going to click through those interior pages. And especially having only 2 pages, I think you could combine those and it would have worked just as well.
Thanks, Ryan.
Sure.
So now we're going to move on to Casey Scully. If you could demo your viz.
Hey everybody, I'm Casey Scully and I created the viz Who Controls the Air Traffic. And so this graphic shows the airlines and airplanes which bring us the farthest based on the 2016 domestic passenger miles flown. So I want to share some highlights from the viz, and then I want to talk a little bit about my journey to create it. So the dashboard has 5 major elements. The first being the aircraft lollipop chart up here, and the second being the airline bubble cloud over here, showing the biggest airlines and the biggest aircraft, or the most flown airlines and aircraft. And then there's the exploration map at the bottom. And then there is the air traffic control tower helper thing here. So I'll show you how this works in a moment. And then there's the feeling nerdy filter by aircraft option where you can see the range of each aircraft. So a DHC 8300 is pretty short versus these 777-300s fly about 2,600 miles. So the insights from this initial view are that the 737s, so the 800, 700, and 900 series flew the most passenger miles, and the top 3 airlines, that being Southwest, American, and United all have 737s as their most flown craft. The next insight is if you're on a 737-700, your bag is likely flying free, and that means you're probably flying Southwest. And then the little guys, Spirit, JetBlue, and Virgin really prefer the Airbus aircraft. So let's explore. We'll click on our departing airport RDU, and the helper control tower is going to let us know that we're looking at RDU departures, the top updates with the airlines and aircraft leaving RDU. And when we click on the 737-800, the control tower update saying we're looking at RDU 737-800 departures, and we will likely be headed pretty far west or to O'Hare or to Miami. And so the map isn't the most beautiful element in the Viz, but I think it's the most immersive. Personally, I think Vizes should kind of give you a big digestible, easily digestible thing, and then allow you to kind of explore if you want to further. So I want to talk you through a little bit of my journey on how I got to the final Viz. I started like everyone with the data.world piece. And when I joined everything, elevation was certainly the quantitative data that stood out. So I ended up actually initially putting all the global airports on a map and saw China and Colorado as some of the highest elevation airports. And wanting to satisfy the unique element of the contest, I initially explored the idea of which routes could you hang glide cheaper than flying a domestic ticket, meaning routes where the departure elevation was higher than the destination elevation. So it turns out that hang gliders, even unsafe used ones from the 80s, are still a long-term investment, and it's actually cheaper to fly commercial. But this price comparison journey brought me to the airfares, of which the US data was the most available. I figured out that the airfare data is part of the BTS, the Bureau of Transportation Statistics report, which has the passenger counts, the fares, and the radian route miles for each domestic route. So I joined the 20 million rows from the BTS 2016 and calculated the passenger miles. So that is the passenger counts time on an aircraft times the radian route miles for that trip. Then I really iterated endlessly on views showing aircraft and equipment. At one point, I had a pretty boring table on there of aircrafts versus airlines and a concentration. But I kind of searched for images of aircraft for inspiration, and I found user BB 1987 of Rome, Italy on a forum of shipbuilding. And this person has beautifully scaled renderings of every commercial aircraft. And I really invite you to check out their work in the Viz credits. You can just see some amazing detail poured into this, even like the different engines that you could have a Pratt & Hewitt or a Rolls-Royce. Some of these engines differ on these planes. So with those files, I built some 37 custom PNG shapes, which I used for the lollipop chart at the top. And then lastly, I finalized the Viz. And since it was my first time using public, I had to pull a few tricks to speed it up. Namely, I was computing the calculations in my extract before uploading it. And then also Viz and tooltips are a lot slower on public than they are in desktop. And so I ended up preloading the Viz and tooltip and filtering down on the hover rather than repopulating it each time on the hover. So that is my dashboard, who controls the air traffic. And I thank you all for choosing me as one of the finalists.
Nice presentation, Casey. So with that, I'm going to ask for feedback from Paul, and then from Ken, and then Ryan. So Paul, if you want to start with the feedback.
Yeah, so Casey, really great job. I liked it all around. I mean, it's visually appealing. It's a dashboard that jumps out and get my attention. And there's just so much about it. I can only talk for so long, but I have to say, and I don't know I've ever started feedback this way, but I love the bubble chart. You built it into the design so well with the clouds up there, and then with the planes flying out, right? Like I think bubble charts sort of have that narrow use case where they attract people's attention. And then if I'm not mistaken, I couldn't download it. I think you had the download not on there. I really wanted to explore it a bit more, but it looks like I don't know if it's just the way I looked at it, but your label is only labeling the percentage for the top 3. Because at first, like with a bubble chart, sometimes it's hard to find the top 3. So I don't know if that was a space thing or intentional, but I thought that was really cool. And, the planes going across the sky was awesome. The bar chart was effective. You mentioned how you made the tooltips more performant. What I had noted about them was I thought they did a good job of drilling in and addressing the natural second level question, right? So people are like, what would somebody ask? And so I thought what you provided there was good. Also the routes on the plane, I mean, just the clicking and the interactivity with the map and how well everything worked together. And if I get into constructive feedback, the interesting thing is, I'll offer a bit of constructive feedback that doesn't apply to your dashboard, but that new users can work with. And then I'll talk a little bit about one thing I would change on yours. So I do a lot of Tableau training at the D1 and D2 level, internal at Red Hat. And a couple of things that I tell newbies not to do that you executed on really well here is the bubble charts, putting the icons at the end of the bars, using a gradient in the background, and vertical text like you had on the tower. I wouldn't change the cloud or the bubble chart, the planes, or the gradient in the background. I tell newbies not to do it, but you're clearly above that and you executed on them really well. I love it. But if I were going to nitpick, and there's one thing I would change, the vertical text on the air traffic controller, as neat as that is, and I love that it's interactive, that was just a little hard to keep up with. Vertical text can be a challenge, particularly when it's small or kind of when it's changing. Honestly, I didn't even realize it was dynamic the first time I looked at your dashboard. But overall, just like the other top 3 and all the others that came in, fantastic job.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. So Ken, if you have any feedback.
Yeah, well, Paul certainly stole a lot of my thunder there, but that's okay. I was very much drawn in by the blue and white color palette. It sort of evokes an image of the sky and seems quite apropos. Likewise, like the interactivity of the different charts. Other than, as by way of feedback, I was a little bit caught off guard that when I filter on the bubble chart, it doesn't directly operate against the lollipop chart, whereas clicking on the map does. I was also unaware about the little icon in the lower left and clicking that and having the so-called nerdy filter for the aircraft type. And I might have rather seen, as much as by the way, I appreciate that you gave proper attribution to your graphics and listed where they came from. And I think people need to be more thoughtful about giving credit to the sources of their material. But that might have been better material to put on a click-through rather than giving up all that screen real estate for the purposes of attribution and then having a filter panel for the aircraft type sort of somewhat hidden away. It wasn't obvious to me how to do that because, personal note, my little brother actually works for an airline, and he would have liked to have seen the other aircraft type come up, and we didn't know about the filter. So again, overall, outstanding, very engaging, love the presentation style, and definitely had me sucked in and clicking through for quite a long time. So very well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, again, congratulations, Casey. There's a lot that I like about this visualization. The 2 biggest things I like are kind of more strategic. I absolutely love that you post a question at the top of the visualization and a very clear caption on what we're looking at. I think that's often overlooked. People kind of neglect that setup and it leaves the user lost. So I absolutely love that aspect of this. I actually love that you walked us through that story. I don't know if we'll get into it during the Q&A for me, but I really think that was one of the secrets to my success in the Iron Biz contest is I was the only one of the 3 contestants, and sorry to give the next guy a hint, but I was one of the only 3 to actually explain my reasoning behind what I was doing, give it some context, kind of show how I built up to that. And I think that works really well in a contest like this, as well as in business, just kind of showing them some of that background information. Tactically, I love the tower. I get the previous comments about the vertical text. I didn't really consider that, but I love any type of alert that kind of dynamically updates to show the user what they're looking at. And I like, it's kind of done in a fun but tasteful way, putting it in the tower like that. My constructive feedback on this one is I really liked your analysis when you started out in the very beginning and we're hovering over tooltips and kind of explaining one of the insights and why it made sense with Southwest flying bigger planes and giving you free luggage. However, this is one of those visualizations where I don't think that would be apparent to a user. I think they would explore it and they would look around on their own, but I'm not sure some of those key actionable insights would really pop unless somebody really knew what they were looking at. So maybe a little section just giving out some of the top insights would be good for this one. And then lastly, I'm not going to lie, you got me on your animated background. That's clever. That's a nice feature while you're talking and keeping it in brand. That was fun. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan, for that feedback. So last but not least, we have Phil Talcott.
All right, thanks everybody. Let me know whenever my screen comes up for folks. All right.
Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, to go ahead and begin, unless you've been living under a rock like we're all in this pandemic, but all of us are probably itching to get out and get traveling. Once we either get a vaccine or once COVID starts to wind down. And so the intent behind this dashboard is using the data that was provided to develop almost like a type of dashboard that could be used to help us begin to, once we're at that phase, go ahead and begin traveling and see where we might want to go visit. And for this dashboard, basically what you need to do is follow the steps 1 through 5, and you'll see throughout the dashboard, there's 5 different planes here that indicate the steps 1 through 5. And so to begin with, for this dashboard, you want to pick your departing city. So let's see, it's going to load up for just 1 second. So by default, I have this set for Raleigh-Durham and our airport here, but you could pick like any other airport around the world that you're interested in looking at. Step 2, you're going to pick, if you follow the instructions here, click on your destination city. So it's a cold week here. We want to go somewhere warm. So you could click on Cancun, Mexico, and that's going to pull up the relevant airlines that are going to take you to Cancun. Maybe you're not sure if you want to go to Cancun yet. So you can then click on this third drop down here, or this third button for view destination attractions. And Tableau, one feature that a lot of folks haven't made the best, not best, but isn't used in a lot of different dashboards that you see, is that you can actually pop up and render URLs in your dashboard. And so that's what we're doing here. And you can see by selecting Cancun, it's going to pull up any sort of images related to Cancun. So Cancun's great, but say we might want to go to somewhere in South America. Well, we can start to look at some of our bigger airports here in the area. So if we instead depart from Charlotte, that's going to give us a bigger area that we can fly to. And if we want to go to South America, it's summer there. Maybe we can go to Rio de Janeiro. So you can click on Rio. It looks like we have a US Airways flight that goes there. Let's check it out. Looks like it'd be a really fun trip. Lots of great scenery. I haven't been there before. Lots of great beaches. So I'm going to plan on going to Rio. The next step, step 4, is that you need to confirm your trip details. And in this dashboard, I have a parameter that's set to where this is going to default to the next day. You know, you probably want to travel pretty soon. And so this is going to default to tomorrow, Friday. But you can change this to be later on. So if we want to instead travel January 2021, we can go ahead and change that parameter here. And then you can also change like how you want to sort your trip. Like if you want to look at it by like the earliest flight or whatnot, you can do all of that through this parameter. And then the next step is, let's close that button. You're going to click step 5, and that's going to launch you over here to kayak.com so that you can go ahead and book your flight and go get to Rio de Janeiro. So in a nutshell, that's what the intent of this dashboard is doing. You know, if anyone plans on traveling in the next few months, I'd love for somebody to actually use this to book their travel and give me feedback that way. But I guess a little more background on the dashboard. Let's see. Let me close this. As far as preparing the data, one cool thing, so since, you know, we were given the default of the planes, trains data, but Kayak also has this API that lets you go and download out Kayak data to it. And I've taken that and then worked with it in Python to pull data in from that standpoint. So you could work on this to continue to pull in and enrich the data further and further. You know, if you want to add in other levels, you can do all of that from here too. And this also is supportive of open source tools. And let's see, I don't have too much else to go through at this point. So if, I guess I'll go ahead and hand it back over to our judges.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. So I was going to start with Chris and then Paul, if you have any feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So Phil, fantastic job. I mean, definitely, you know, the story Ryan mentioned, you know, kind of the using that title to tell the story and then tell us how we're going to, you know, interact with this. And then it's a tool. It's not just a dashboard. It is totally a, you know, it's usable, user-friendly, and you don't have to go anywhere. You can, and not physically go anywhere, but you have to go off of this page. I mean, it all literally just pops up right there for you, and you don't have to leave the dashboard, which for a business dashboard, that's one of the biggest things that I tell my, you know, my developers is like, do not make them leave. Go, you know, keep them on the screen. If you've got to do a pop-up, and your use of pop-ups, your use of hovers, of all those functionality, I mean, was just pure genius. So I mean, I absolutely love this. I think it's super useful. I'm going to bookmark it, and the next time we're going on a trip, I'm definitely gonna use this dashboard. Only feedback I have. So one, I noticed on all 3 of your dashboards, and so you may have a use for this, but I'm going to go out there on a limb and say that none of you did this on purpose, and you left it out there. When you're doing a map, I mean, especially for business dashboards and things like that, I always take the scrolling function off, because I think you did it during rehearsal. When you scroll over the map, even if you do it unintentionally, you're going to zoom into an area, and then, you know, actually the first time I looked at your dashboard, I accidentally did it, and I ended up somewhere, I think in South America, and I had to zoom all the way out to find out even where I was. So you've done such a great job with your parameters, with your filters, everything to get to where you're looking at. Just let your filters drive what the map is going to show, and not have that scroll in and out, because it's going to be just a kind of a user thing. And then the other one was, I really like the chart on the right, but I think the number of colors you have on there was a little bit distracting. I don't know a better way off the top of my head to do that, other than just to maybe do the single color across the board. Other than that, I mean, again, like I said before, being extremely nitpicky, but this was just fantastic, and one that, again, I personally could see myself coming back to over and over again. So thanks again, Phil, for a great viz.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.
Very cool. So yeah, a lot of overlap feedback wise, Phil. I absolutely love the Viz. I think the numbering is an underutilized feature of a dashboard that progresses, right? And it's and I think for me, even like in my stuff, sometimes I just take for granted that people are like, we talk about like the Z pattern a lot, like people who are English language readers start at the top and go across the page. I don't think that happens quite as often as we think it does. And I love how you numbered very clearly 1 through 5, right? So start here, progress your way through. It's a logical progression. And it's also visually appealing. I like that you sort of have the same theme throughout. Your colors align with your icons. I think, and this is real simple, but you know, a lot of you did this, but I think it was really great that you're choosing the starting airport. And you demonstrated it really well. Like, let's say I want to go somewhere else where Raleigh has limited destinations, especially internationally, right? So you choose the starting airport and you've got more options. And it's very plain and easy to see here, right? It's very intuitive. The chart off to the side, similar to what Chris said. Oh, by the way, before I jump there, also the interactivity and the use of the URL, and that you brought it up right in the Viz and you didn't send people off to a separate tab. So really, really good call out there and really good design. Off on the side, I find the box charts, it's well designed and it's fun. And as a data nerd, I want to click on it and I want to see, and I like pairing across the top to down the side. But it overlaps a bit with what you're doing in the map. And I think the map tells you a lot of what you get out of that chart on the side in a more intuitive manner, though it takes some interactivity, right? You have to click on it. So you've sort of got the at a glance view and the interactive map. But off on the side, that one for me as a data geek, I enjoyed, but I wondered sort of how effective that is when somebody is attempting to plan their travel. So stretching there for the feedback, but great job, fantastic, just like the other top 3, and it's cool.
Yeah, thanks, appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, hi Phil, congratulations on making it into the finals. Again, I like the Viz a lot. I think what stood out for me on this one out of the 3 is, to me, this one was the most actionable. I would actually use this and interact with it and try to do something with it. So that's always a really big point for me. So I love that aspect of it. Christopher mentioned the title. I'm always a fan of that. I mentioned that on the last visualization. What I like more extra about this one is you've made it dynamic and put the departure city into the title. I think that's great. But, you know, not to assume somebody's from your hometown. It just makes it more scalable, more global. Anybody could use this, which I really like. As far as constructive feedback, I was a bit confused on the user experience. If I'm being candid on number 1, I would, as a new user, I think I'd be clicking on the map to set my departure city. I'm sure everyone would understand it once they clicked on one airplane and they realized that that's what opened up all these bells and whistles. But I might suggest, instead of having that same airplane icon throughout, just turning those into buttons themselves, where when you click, it could be a layout container that's customized to have the text right on the button. Select departing city, it opens up the container where you make your selections. But other than that, I really like this one. I like the visualization on the right. There's something about that reverse contrast that's really popping for me. And I'm curious to look up my own city and see which airlines go out of there. So I really liked it. And just want to say congratulations to all 3. It's obvious there's a reason you guys are the finalists here. These are all really great.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks for that feedback. So now I'm going to announce the top 3 winners. And I'm going to start with 2nd place and then 1st place. And with that, the 3rd place will be clear. So 2nd place, we have Phil Talcott.
There we go.
Nice job.
Phil.
Thanks, guys, appreciate it.
1st place, so the winner of this Viz contest, we have Casey Scully.
Oh, wow, thank you so much. If I keep talking, you'll get to see the airplanes fly again.
So that leaves us with third place, Moataz Mahmoud. Congrats, everybody. Nice job.
Fantastic. Yeah. So
Congratulations,
Moataz,
everyone.
I know you sent this in an email, but if you all haven't checked out, I mean, obviously go check out all their Tableau publics. But Moataz got inspired by this contest and did about 10 more visualizations, all of which could have been entered to win to this contest. Fantastic work overall, Casey. Your work on this one, but I've seen your work too on other visualizations. Fantastic work, all three of you. So anyway, all right. Well, thank you, Marit, for leading that and for leading us through the all of that session. I hope you all found that valuable. We wanted to not only continue to build up our and encourage those that participated, but also we really wanted you to see what it takes to get into that. So without further ado, because we are running a little behind time here, I do want to give Ryan the opportunity to tell us all about himself and about some toggles and to do some Q&A and everything. So I want to give a little bit of intro to Ryan before he jumps in and does all that. So am I sharing my screen right now? No, I was sharing the wrong screen, wasn't I? Oh, there it is. Oh, I had the drum roll and everything. You all missed the drum roll. Oh, boo. Okay. All right. So I got to know Ryan as a Tableau ambassador, and went out to Kansas City for a business trip, and we went and got some delicious Mexican food and had some big beers and some big margarita glasses. And then we got so if you ever want to just hang out, you just know to buy me a beer and we'll be friends for life. So Ryan and I, we got to know each other. Obviously the bald heads, we just immediately had this connection, this brotherhood. But Ryan has been a source of inspiration for me since literally day one. And every single person every company I go to, every person I talk to has been impacted by Ryan. Without a doubt, he has given more to this community than probably anyone else that I know. And he is extremely selfless and will at any time you have a question, he will try his best to get it answered as quickly as possible. So I have gotten just so much inspiration and help from him, whether it's on a random calculation or just career and Tableau advice in general. So I am extremely grateful that he has agreed to come and speak to us tonight. So I'm excited to hear what he has to share. And without further ado, Ryan, take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Christopher. And hey, everybody. I didn't get a chance to just thank you for your time. It does feel kind of casual and like I'm just talking to old friends. I've wanted to speak at the Raleigh-Durham user group forever, actually. Virtual is the best we can do this year, but hopefully can make it there in person sometime soon. As Christopher mentioned, he already shared my secret. The secret to my heart is food and drinks. So hopefully we can do that someday in person. But yeah, thanks for your time, especially here towards the end at 5:30. That's a very tough act to follow with all those great Viz contest entries that you just saw. And I'll just echo to Christopher's point. I hope you got some good constructive strategies and thoughts out of that feedback that was provided by all the panelists. This presentation is a little bit different. It's very tactical. I guess it's somewhat related to what we just talked about because I feel like when you go into the Iron Viz contest, you have to have a couple tricks up your sleeve. And this is one of the ones that I've been kind of gravitating towards lately. It's going to be a series of how to build different toggles. I think there's something in here for everybody, regardless of your skill level. So I think you can at least use one of these toggle options, even if you've never used Tableau before following tonight's presentation. But I'm also going to work my way up to making more advanced toggles and showing you my current favorite way to do toggles. I am here in support of my new book, Innovative Tableau. It's 100 different chapters, 100 different tutorials, tactics, strategies. And these three that I'm about to show you are actually brand new. I love the stuff. I keep tinkering and building new things. So the three things I'm about to show you actually are not in that book, but if you like what you see on this video or recording, then please check out the book because there's a lot more tutorials like that. All right, let me see if I can figure out how to share my screen very quickly and we'll jump right in. All right, I wanted to start by, let me see if I can close this side window here. All right, I wanted to start by showing you what I'm even talking about when I'm talking about toggling items on and off in Tableau. So I've opened up a visualization from my Tableau public portfolio. This tracks my speaking engagements this year, which turned out obviously to look very different than I expected going into it, but salvaged it. Here I am. This is my last public presentation of the year, believe it or not. Very happy to be here at this very last orange dot. RDU, there you are. But one of the features of this visualization is there's this toggle in the top right corner where by default, what we're looking at are the current year's speaking engagements. But if you have the option to look at previous speaking engagements by just clicking on that button. When I click that button, it not only does the shape change, now it's showing me that the toggle has been turned on, but it's also got the same colored dots that we see in the toggle are showing my prior speaking engagements. So that's what I'm talking about when I talk about a toggle. And I'm going to show you three different ways to make a very similar user experience. This would be great for a visualization contest. You can impress your friends at parties if they're into this kind of stuff. But I just wanted to give you a cool kind of trick to have up your sleeve. So first of all, let's talk about how to make toggles or where to get those toggle shapes. You've got three options off the top of my head. One is you could make them if you know graphic design, or some people like to make shapes for Tableau in PowerPoint. But that's probably the least efficient option. There are lots and lots of these toggle shapes that are already out there. So my second tip is just to search for them on Google. If you do any Google search for anything you want, there is an images tab. A couple suggestions there. I highly recommend that you check out the settings. If you've never seen this before, in the advanced search, you can change the usage rights. So by default, your Google search is going to return every single image of a toggle, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're legally allowed to use that image without either acknowledging the creator of that toggle or possibly paying them. So this is just a nice thing to do to put some good vibes out there in the universe, is to go to the advanced tab and make sure that these images that you're using are licensed for your use. Second tip for you with images is I highly recommend that you save them with a background, with a transparent background. And the way that you do that is to use images with a file type of .png. If I change this search actually to .png, we should see some of these transparent things show up. So this example here, that checkered background is telling me that those are the pixels in that image that will be transparent. That'll make those as flexible as possible, particularly when you're trying to use them on a reverse contrast or background image like I'm doing here. This image has some transparent pixels in the rounded corners. That's what's making it fit into the view seamlessly like that. So I highly recommend you use PNGs with transparent backgrounds. If you want to be safe and make sure that you have permission to use the image, I am a big fan of this site called thenounproject.com. They sell millions of toggles at not just toggles, millions of icons at a very reasonable price. I think they're $3 each. The reason I don't know the exact price is because I have the annual membership, which I think is $40. I get no royalties or anything from this. It's just cheap and I love using it. So check it out if you have a need to make icons. But over here in the Noun project, I've searched for toggle just to give you an idea of all the different options you would have. Just scrolling down here, you can get individual toggles and reverse the colors. You could buy sets of toggles. One of the best things about the Noun project is when you're logged in, you can change the default color of the icon. So if you know that you're going to use it as the same color every time, you could go ahead and set that color before you even download it. You could also save these images directly from the Noun project as PNG images. So there's where to get the toggles. Then you also need to know where these toggle shapes go. And that is going to be on your own computer. When you install Tableau, it automatically installs a folder called My Tableau Repository. And within that folder, there's something called the Shapes folder. This Shapes folder, any images in these folders will align with the palettes that you see if you're using a mark type of shape and you click the shape marks card. You'll see that in just a moment. And in fact, I'll just come back to this, but there's some default palettes in here. But notice I've added 2 custom folders, Toggle 1 and Toggle 3, that I'll be going through today. And if I go into that folder, I've placed those downloaded images from the Noun project into this folder. Once I've got those images, I'm ready to make my first toggle. So I've got 3 different approaches to share with you. And please, somebody interrupt me if I'm supposed to be seeing something. I see some chat going on, but I'm going to keep talking. Just interrupt me if I need to know anything. I wanted to mention that I don't want you to feel like you have to take tedious notes while I'm talking through these 3 options, because I've got documentation on how to do all 3 of these. I neglected to mention I'm the founder of Playfair Data. That's my company, and we blog religiously every single week. We send out something new, some new tip, tutorial, strategy. So these are all documented. I've created shortened URLs that will redirect you to documentation on how to do each one. So here's the first one. If you want to check it out in more detail, you can go to playfairdata.com/toggle1. And this one, I would say, is the most traditional toggle, probably has the most purposes as well, probably the most scalable and most usable toggle. So this is one of my current favorites, I'd say, but I do have 3 approaches to show you. The first thing that we need to do is create a toggle button, and this will live on its own sheet. So I'm going to go to this sheet called toggle button, and the first step is to create a Boolean parameter, or in other words, a parameter with a data type of Boolean. To do that, I prefer to right click in any blank space on the data pane and click create parameter. And I'll call this p.toggle. That's just my own naming convention for parameters. I also do with that with sets. If I'm creating a parameter, I precede it with p dot. If I'm building a set, I precede it with s dot. The data type is Boolean because there's only going to be 2 outcomes with this. Either the button is on or it's off. So that's why it's Boolean. True or false will translate to on or off. Click OK. The next thing I need to do is integrate that parameter in a calculated field. So I'm going to create a calculated field, and I will call this my toggle button. And the formula to create the 2 different shapes that I want, the on state and the off state, is going to be IIF. That's short for the immediate if statement. And if you've never seen that before, anytime you see something blue in a calculated field dialog box, you can click on it and it will look it up in this little flyout on the right side. But essentially what it's going to do is I'm going to type a criterion, and in this case, it's going to be my p.toggle equals false. So when that parameter value is false, that's the criterion. Whatever comes after the first comma is the outcome when that statement is true. So when it's false, I'm going to say true. And what comes after the second comma is what happens when that outcome is false, which in this case will be false. Don't worry if you're not following yet. This is extra confusing because I'm not only saying that the criterion is true or false, but we're literally using false and true as our values because that's what that Boolean parameter is made up of. This will make much more sense in a moment, but that is the entire formula. It's actually relatively simple. It's very short. I'm going to click OK and drag that toggle button to the shape marks card. Actually, my sheet would have started out like this. So one more step is you need to change the mark type to shape. And I'm going to drag toggle button onto the shape marks card. And up here in the right corner, you can see that it says false. I'm also going to show the parameter control to remind you that the current value is true. Remember, in that first formula for toggle button, we said when this value is false, show true, otherwise show false. So because this is currently true, our button is for false. What I need to do now is map an image to that false button, which you can do by clicking on the shape marks card and finding our custom shape in this dropdown. This is what I meant when I mentioned that the palettes would correspond with whatever was on the shape marks card. So these are the palettes in my Tableau repository. Those will line up with this dropdown. Here's my custom folder for toggle 1. This part is a little bit confusing, but when it's false, when our outcome is false, like we have here now, I can tell that by the shape legend, we want to actually map the on button. That's because the current value of the parameter is true. So the button is actually on. So I'm going to click false, but map the on button. Click OK. Make that a little bit bigger. I'm then going to switch the parameter to false, which will now show me true. But remember, the parameter is in its off state. So for the image on this one, I'm going to map the off button. Okay, so far so good. So there's our button. Now we need something to toggle on and off. This can be infinite scenarios. By the way, you can also build this button a single time and use a single parameter, but that toggle functionality can work across multiple sheets. So use your imagination on how much you could scale this. But what I'm going to do for today is just make a simple sheet that looks at sales, and then I'll toggle profit ratio on and off. So the user can decide for themselves whether they're looking at profit ratio or not. So on a new sheet, I'll give this a name, sales versus profit ratio. I don't want to get too in the weeds on how I go about making all my different charts. So hopefully this is somewhat familiar to you, but the way I like to make charts, I'm just going to double click sales. I'm going to right click on my order date, drag it to columns. Because I right clicked, I get to choose both the date part and whether that field is going to be used as discrete or continuous. I'll just go with month continuous. And I'm going to change this side to bar. So there's sales by month in the sample Superstore data set. As for what to toggle on and off, I'll need another calculated field. I'll call this profit ratio, and then I'll put toggled in parentheses. And I'll once again use the immediate if statement, and I'll say if the toggle equals true, so it's turned on, I'll display profit ratio. Otherwise, I'll just make that a null value. So one more reminder on what this is doing. The criterion goes first. What comes between the commas is the outcome when that criterion or outcome is true. So when the P dot toggle equals true, I want to show profit ratio. What comes after the second comma is the outcome when this is false. So in this case, null, I don't want it to show anything. I'll click OK. I'll drag this to the right side of the chart to create a dual axis. Right now it's a bar chart. Let me show that parameter and make sure it's on. And maybe I will change the colors of these so it stands out a little bit. And I'll also change the mark type of my dual axis to line. All right, so just to make sure it's working, I've shown the parameter control, and I'll change it back and forth between true and false just to make sure it's working. So when it's off, sales by itself. When it's true, sales plus profit ratio. So far, so good. But what we're going to do is improve the user experience by combining these two things together. We're going to make it so that this button controls whether profit ratio is being shown. To do that, I have to do this on a dashboard because I need to use multiple sheets. So I just created a new dashboard, and I'm going to make these objects floating. I'll drag my chart onto the view first, kind of line this up a little bit better. That's 600 wide, 400 tall. We don't need that one. I'll leave the parameter control just so you can see it's working. Next, I'm going to drag my button sheet onto the view. And change the size of this a little bit. Make that fit the entire view. All right, and I always forget to turn off my tooltips. Let me go turn that off so it stops distracting me. All right, so now these two sheets are on the view together, but right now this isn't doing anything. What I'm going to do is set up a parameter dashboard action, which passes the value on this button to this parameter. Once it's passed to that parameter, it's going to flip the button to off, and it's also going to toggle off the profit ratio. I know that sounded like a mouthful, but it's actually very straightforward. I'm going to click Dashboard, Actions, Add Action. This is a parameter action. I'll call this my toggle. And the logic is very straightforward. Like I said, I only want this to happen on the toggle button. Select is synonymous with click. I'll keep that as is. The parameter that I'm targeting is p.toggle, and the field that I'm targeting is toggle button. There's only one field on the view, so very straightforward logic. I'll click OK, click OK again. Now when I click the button, it turns off and profit ratio is gone. With dashboard actions have a slightly strange user experience in Tableau where it selects it. So that black border tells me it's selected. So to flip it back, I actually have to click it again to deselect it first. And now I can click on it again. I've got a solution for that you're going to like to get rid of that extra click. I'm not a fan of that. To do that, click Dashboard, Actions again, click Add Action, and add a secondary filter action. So here's our parameter action, toggle, but I'm going to choose filter this time. And this one, I'm going to say, if you click, so if you select the toggle button, here's the key part of this. You have to change the target sheet to that button. So by default, we're looking at sheets that are already on this dashboard. If I switch this to go straight to the interior sheet that is not actually on the dashboard and click OK, you'll have some user experience magic. Let me go to presentation mode and show you that. So now it's one click. It's no longer having me deselect it, and I can turn it on and off. All right, that was approach one. Approach two, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, this is the easy one. So without going through all that trickery, you can actually use layout containers to get a very similar effect. To create this one, I'm going to duplicate the sheet twice. But on the first one, I'm going to just make it the baseline state. So I don't have the dual axis on the first sheet. So here's my sales by month as one sheet. Here's my dual axis chart as a second sheet. For this technique, to get these to line up a little bit better, I'm going to hide the right axis by right-clicking and deselecting show header. So those are my two sheets. Then on a new dashboard, I'm going to put the default state onto the view first. And again, I picked floating object so that I could control its exact dimensions as well as location on the X and Y axes. So 600 wide, 400 tall. So that sheet is done. I'll hide the header too. All right, here's the key to the second approach. And if you want to check this one out, it's at playfairdata.com/toggle2. I'm going to, instead of adding the second sheet directly to the view, I'm going to add a layout container directly on top of the first sheet. This layout container will eventually only contain one item, so you can choose either horizontal or vertical. It doesn't make a difference. I'll just grab the first one, place it onto the view. and give this the exact same location in on the x-axis and down on the y-axis, as well as the exact same dimensions across and tall. Now that those are lining up, I will put the toggled on version into that layout container right on top. To do that, you have to hold the shift key while you drag it near the container. The blue border and the gray shading is telling me where it's going to place that second sheet. I'll let go. I'll again hide the header. And here's where the trick comes in and why this is so easy. We can add a show hide button to a layout container now. To do that, you have to first select the layout container. The easiest way to do that is to click any sheet inside of it and then double click on this gray rectangle at the top. When the border turns blue, that's Tableau telling us that that entire container has been selected. With the entire container selected, I can click this down arrow and choose add a show hide button. And so there's the default show hide button, but you can also customize that button by clicking that down arrow and clicking edit button. And I can customize the shapes. So when it is being shown, I will choose the toggled on state. When it is hidden, I will choose the toggle off state. These show hide buttons act as their own elements on a dashboard. So I could go to the layout tab and maybe make that wider and taller. You can change the dimensions just like you would a sheet. You can, because it's floating, I can drag it anywhere I'd like to. And to show you that this one is working, you have to go to either presentation mode or hold the Alt key while you click on the button. I'll go to presentation mode. And if I click the button, the container goes away. So that's what was laying directly on top of the sheet. It went away. There's the baseline state. And now the toggle shows that it is off. If I click to turn it on, the layout container comes back. It contains my profit ratio, so it appears to the user that the profit ratio is being toggled on and off. That's actually the technique that was used on that visualization tracking my speaking engagements. There are benefits to it. I actually kind of like the UX where if you hover over, it kind of fades out. And I also like that it's one click by default. We don't have to deal with that selection and deselection that happens with dashboard actions. The drawback to this approach is it works best when you're only toggling one sheet on and off. Whereas the first approach, you could have one button and integrate that Boolean parameter into as many sheets as you'd like. And a single button can control multiple sheets on a dashboard. All right, my third approach is the most advanced. I'm going to use a technique that I call button swapping to allow a user to toggle things on a view, even when there's more than two selections. So far what we've done is toggled something on and off. That's what people traditionally think of when they think of a toggle, like a VCR. You push the play button, it flips to pause. And so I don't know why I went to VCR. They have that on YouTube too. But that's what people think of traditionally with toggles. So I am being taking a little bit of liberty with my definition of toggle with this last example. It's a little bit more advanced because we'll allow the user to choose from 3 different things. For this one, I'm going to start a new sheet. And what I'm eventually going to allow the user to do is choose between 3 different categories. So I admit this one is a little bit more involved. What I had to do for this one is I created these custom shapes, one for the on state and one for the off state for each of the 3 categories in the sample supersort data set. So don't have time to show you how I built all those, but there they are in the folder, the same way as those 2 toggle images were. The first thing I'll do for this example is I call it a scaffold. I'm just going to kind of lay the foundation or the skeleton of this user interface. This one's going to be built with the category dimension. So I'm going to place that onto the column shelf. And I'll make this a little bit bigger in preparation for adding the buttons. Go ahead and turn my tooltips off in advance so I remember this time. And so there's my scaffold. Eventually I'll populate that with different shapes. And in fact, let me go ahead and change the mark type to shape so that I can eventually map those. All right, with this one, I also need a parameter, but with this parameter, it's not going to be Boolean. I'm going to build it with the 3 different dimension members that are in the category dimension. The easiest way to do that is to right-click directly on the dimension, hover over create, and choose parameter. That's a little bit of a shortcut. What it does is it automatically creates a parameter with the correct data type, and it pre-populates the list of allowable values with whatever the dimension members are in that dimension. So great, we're in good shape. There's my 3 dimension members. I'll call that good. Click OK. This one has a highlighting effect, and whenever I am using a highlight effect on one of my dashboards, I create a calculated field that simply the whole formula is the dimension equals the parameter for that dimension. So category equals category parameter, and that actually is the entire formula. So I'll just type that again. There's the whole formula. I will click OK. That's going to result in a Boolean, by the way, true or false. Click OK. For the next step, I'm going to create a calculated field, and I'll call this my category shape. And the formula is going to be that first formula plus category. That concatenates the results of this with the category dimension. The error message I'm getting is because I can't mix data types. This is Boolean while this is string. Easy fix for that. If I just wrap the first part of this in the str function, my formula is valid again because I'm adding a string to a string. This formula is going to result in 6 outcomes. It's going to be true or false for each of my 3 categories. Let me just show you that this is working. I'll click OK. This goes on to the shape marks card. So I'll drag that to shape. You can see the legend show up here. And because this is Boolean, each category dimension member is preceded with either an F or a T. Let me show the parameter control as well. So furniture is the current value of the parameter. So it's the only one that gets a T before it. The other 2 get a false. So those are the first 3 outcomes. And I'm going to map my custom shapes to those outcomes. I'm going to go to my toggle 3 palette. And when it's false office supplies, I'll use that shape. I know you can't see this because I can't see it myself. I think with the latest Tableau update, I don't think it's just because I'm getting older. I think it's because they made these even lower res than they already were. But I kind of know because of the order how to map these. So false technology, I believe is that one. True furniture. No, I was wrong. That's furniture and that's technology. The good news is anytime you see this apply button in Tableau, you can preview the change before you accept it. Although I should have made these bigger so that I could see them. But yes, it looks like I am in fact in good shape. These are mapped to the correct ones. You just kind of play with the sizing here. Now I'm going to make a second selection. And now that office supplies is the true outcome, I have to remap 2 of the shapes. So I need to go back in here, finish some of that mapping. So true office supplies is this one and false furniture is this one. Here's what I was saying about apply. If I click that, now I can see it's working. Click OK. The last one was technology. There's just one more shape to map, true technology. Go over here to my toggle 3 and choose true technology. So there is my interface. I no longer need these repetitive headers. I've never liked these horizontal lines. Those are row dividers. So I was just cleaning that up a little bit. All right. I'll call this my interface. And I need that to control something. I'm going to quickly make another sheet. I know I'm running out of time. Christopher's probably sweating over there that I'm talking too much, but I am almost done. So I'll do sales by continuous month of order date again. I'll put the category dimension onto the row shelf just so we can see it's working. And here's where that highlighter dimension comes in. I do this all the time. If you're not familiar with this, I highly encourage you just to Google how to highlight a dimension member throughout a Tableau visualization. It'll show you how to do this. But if I drag that to the filter shelf and click true, it's going to keep only the value of this parameter. So it's currently technology. That's why it kept only technology. Once again, though, to finalize this, I'm going to combine these two things on a dashboard. So final line graph as floating. Let me correct this location and size, 200 by 200 and 600 by 400. And I will add my new interface to the view. Get rid of some of that, make this fit entire view. I made this one really giant. Let me make this shorter. All right, we'll call that good. Maybe put it right here in the center. It's nice and bold for you. So as with option number one, just to bring this whole thing full circle, the last step to tie these two sheets together is to use a parameter dashboard action. You do that by going to dashboard actions, add an action, parameter. And what I'm saying this time is if you click on the interface, so select the interface, I want you to target the category parameter and override it with the category dimension. Again, pretty straightforward logic. I'll click OK again, go to presentation mode. And now if I click supplies, it passes that supplies value to the category parameter. That category parameter is integrated with my highlight calculation that says category equals category parameter. That filters this line graph. I click furniture, jumps over to furniture. Supplies, technology. Same technique. If you don't like that highlight effect, if you go to dashboard actions and add a secondary filter action, I'll do interface. And if you click the interface, I want you to go filter the interface. And now this should work seamlessly for me. We go to presentation mode one more time. Now notice the selections aren't being grayed out. We went through the trouble of creating those custom images with the custom reverse contrast like that. So that's a much nicer design and user experience. All right, that's all I've got for you. I appreciate you hanging with me a little bit late. I'll pause there. I know there's probably a standing ovation, but no, I'll turn it back over to Chris. And if there is still time, I'm happy to hang out if there's any questions from anybody, but thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. Paul?
Yeah, fantastic stuff. And really great to hear from everyone in the chat about how cool this is, comments about it being awesome. And so many dashboards to go back and rebuild. That's what we want to hear, right? We've got actionable things to go back and build. Ryan, thank you. Really appreciate the feedback you gave throughout to help people grow and learn. And then the tutorial you gave there was just off the charts. I did love the call out for the licensing in Google search. That's an important one that you don't hear very often. And I love the user experience magic with your filtering highlight there to get the highlight turned off. Nice stuff. Thank you so much. Congrats again to all three of our finalists, but congrats also to everybody who submitted, right? Congrats for putting yourself out there. If you didn't already have a Tableau public profile, congrats for starting that. The Red Hatters on the call will be tired of hearing me say this, but I think Tableau public and having a Tableau public profile is a great way to get your career going if you're interested in Tableau being part of your career. And I imagine that's a strong overlap with an audience at a TUG. So fantastic, congrats to you. And those of you out there who didn't submit or don't have a Tableau public profile yet, I hope you'll start one. You'll tag RDU TUG in it so we can follow you. With that, I just want to say a few closing remarks, get everybody out of here and out to dinner. The Carolinas TUG. So be on the lookout for the Carolina TUG coming up. When is
14th.
it again, Chris?
I don't know why the date is not on here. I didn't create this, but it's the 14th.
The
So coming up in-
14th. All right, the
in about 2
14th of
weeks. Yep.
December.
Yep.
Second time tonight I lost my notes. So cool. Yeah, the 14th, check out the Carolinas Tug, another virtual opportunity to connect and to gather. There'll be fantastic content there. You've signed up for this event, so you're already subscribed to get our updates, but be on the lookout for another tug in Q1. We're excited that you guys keep coming back. We hope this content is impactful to you. We want to hear from you. If you haven't yet, click that link Chris gave earlier for the Have a Job, Need a Job call out for the community forum. Bookmark it, don't lose it. Put yourself out there if you're interested in new opportunities, or if you have one, make sure people know about it. And with that, I just want to say thank you again, everybody. Happy holidays. Have a safe new year. Be safe into Q1, and can't wait till we can see you all again at some point next year.
Mm-hmm.
Very
Bye,
cool.
everybody.